In this video, I'll show you how to take a B2 essay and up-level it to a C1 level and beyond. Let's begin by reading the original B2 essay before we improve it. Why we should ban smoking. Smoking is an addictive habit that ruins lives. However, people are still smoking even though they know the risks. In this essay, I will go over 3 reasons smoking is a bad idea and why we should ban it. Firstly, smoking causes lung cancer. If this terrible disease is not discovered in time, it kills people. In many cases, the patient would not develop, there's a mistake there, lung cancer if they had not smoked. Secondly, another disadvantage of smoking is passive smoking. This is when people who do not smoke develop health problems because they have breathed the smoke of another person. This is especially bad when it is innocent children. Thirdly, the farming of tobacco uses land that could be used for growing plants to eat. This is especially bad because tobacco is grown in poor countries where people cannot have money to buy food. Finally, these 3 reasons are only a small amount of the reasons smoking is bad and why we should ban it. Isn't it time to ban this disgusting and harmful habit? This essay has some really good parts. However, there are some mistakes and there are also areas which we can improve. So if we look at the title, why we should ban smoking, that's absolutely fine. It's grammatically correct. However, I'm going to rewrite it at a more complex and advanced level. So I'm simply going to have smoking and then a colon, and then I'm going to put the case for prohibition. Prohibition has 2 meanings. It means firstly to ban something, the noun to ban something. However, it also refers to a time in American history, I believe it was the 1930s, when alcohol was completely banned, and we call that the Prohibition era. The first sentence says, smoking is an addictive habit that ruins lives. As you know from my other videos, I always like to start with a when or a where fronted adverbial. In every nation. Now, everybody knows that smoking is bad for your health. So I'm going to start it with, it is now a universally accepted fact that smoking is an addictive habit. So this adverb, universally accepted, it means accepted by everyone. Universally means all over the world and by everyone. Actually going to change the noun fact to truth. We have here that ruins lives, so I'm going to use a relative clause with which ruins lives. In every nation, it is now a universally accepted truth that smoking is an addictive habit which ruins lives. And then we've got, however, people are still smoking even though they know the risks well. Firstly, that's a great sentence, apart from we need a comma here before this subordinate clause. Now I'm going to start this next sentence with and yet. I advise you look up and yet. You can use this to start sentences. And yet people are still smoking. Well, I'm going to say people still, and then I'm going to use a phrasal verb. Puff away. Puff, the verb, means when you inhale smoke and then you puff it out. Now, very interestingly, this adverb here, away. In English, we can use this with a verb if it means that you keep doing it. For example, when I entered the room, she was standing there singing away. It means that she was in the process of singing. I would say that this use can be slightly colloquial, however, it does work in this advanced essay. And yet, people still puff away. And then it says, even though they know the risks, I'm going to say, fully aware of the risks. If you are fully aware of something, it means that you know all about it. For example, listen to the question. Are you aware that smoking causes cancer? It means, do you know that smoking causes cancer? And then we've got here, in this essay, I will go over 3 reasons smoking is a bad idea and why we should ban it. Well, we would need a comma after in this essay. Now, I do like the use of go over. It's a phrasal verb. If you go over something, it means that you're reading it, you're explaining it. It refers to the process of a continued explanation. I'm going to keep in this essay. And then instead of using go over, which is slightly colloquial, I'm just going to use outline. I outline, and then we'll have 3 arguments against smoking and why it should be. Let's use a different verb from ban. Let's use outlaw. So it should be outlawed. And what I'm going to do as well, after and why, I'm going to put a comma. I believe, comma, it should be outlawed. Before we move on, let's just look at this part here. In this essay, I outline. You can use just the present tense when you are talking about what you're going to do in an essay. In this essay, I outline. In this essay, I explain. You do not need to use the future tense with will. You can, but you can also use the present tense in this context. So the next paragraph begins with firstly. I'm going to keep firstly. Smoking causes lung cancer. If this terrible disease is not discovered in time, it kills people. That is absolutely fine. It is grammatically correct and absolutely right for a B2 level. Let's see if we can make it more advanced and more complicated. I want to mention not just lung cancer, but all the forms of cancer. And we've already used smoking in our previous paragraph, so now I'm going to use the noun smokers, so people who smoke. Smokers risk. I want to say smokers risk many cancers. Now there's a great expression, a plethora of cancers. This is very advanced. It means lots of different types, a plethora of cancers. You could also say a myriad of cancers as well. And then we'll say the fronted adverbial, in particular, lung cancer. And then it says, if this disease is not discovered in time, so let's have a relative clause, which, if not discovered early, and then it says, kills people, we'll say, is fatal. If something is fatal, it means that it is deadly, that it will kill you. So, firstly, smokers risk a plethora of cancers, in particular, lung cancer, which if not discovered early is fatal. Now we've got here in many cases, which is a great fronted adverbial, and they have used a comma. The patient would not develop. It should say it would not have developed lung cancer if they had not smoked. That's, apart from the missing a have, that's an excellent sentence. So I'm going to just use in many instances. In many instances is the same as many cases. I'm going to use a very advanced sentence structure here. Had the patient not smoked. This means if the patient had not smoked, but this is a very advanced construction. I'm going to make a video where I give you lots of examples of C1 grammar and vocabulary, and this is one of them. When we're talking about something hypothetically, we're imagining it, we can use this had construction. Had the patient not smoked, they would never have developed this. Now, I don't want to say lung cancer again, this devastating disease. Another example is this sentence. Had I known she would be late, I would have sat down and had a coffee. Had she understood the problem, she would have reacted differently. So we're on to this paragraph now. Secondly, another disadvantage of smoking is passive smoking. So let's put secondly. I'm going to say, instead of another disadvantage of smoking, a further. A further can mean another. A further outcome of smoking, and then let's use this, is the phenomenon of passive smoking. And I think we need an adjective to describe outcome. We could say a further negative outcome, but I'm going to use this adjective. I think I've used it in one of my other videos. Pernicious. It means really, really terrible. That's a very advanced adjective. So secondly, a further pernicious outcome of smoking is the phenomenon of passive smoking. We've used smoking twice there. So we need to find a different way of saying smoking. Let's say practice. A practice is something that you do. So secondly, a further pernicious outcome of this practice, let's say this unhealthy practice. This unhealthy practice is smoking. It's the phenomenon of passive smoking. And then we have here an explanation of what passive smoking is. This is when people who do not smoke develop health problems because they have breathed the smoke of another person. So let's say here, let's use a comma and let's use this fantastic word, which I will put in my C1 grammar video, whereby people who do not smoke develop health issues. So I've changed health problems to health issues. Issues is more advanced and more formal than problems because they have breathed the smoke of another person. So I'm going to use a more advanced verb than breathed, which is inhaled. And then instead of the smoke of another person, let's say second-hand smoke. Something is second-hand, comes from another person. You can buy a second-hand book, for example, or second-hand clothes. And we can also say second-hand smoke. And then we have here, this is especially bad when it is innocent children. Let's say this is especially, let's keep that because I like that. This is especially damaging when, and then when it is innocent children, let's say when those affected, those means people, those affected are innocent children. And I want to add in here a relative clause with whose, because I want you to see an example of using whose in a relative clause. Whose bodies are still growing, developing. We've actually used developing already, so let's have growing. So now we're on to this paragraph beginning thirdly. The farming of tobacco uses land that could be used for growing plants to eat. Farming is absolutely fine. However, their farming usually refers to animals. It can refer to plants as well, but if you're specifically referring just to plants, there is a better word, and that is the cultivation of tobacco. Uses land that could be used for growing plants to eat. We've got a repetition, use and use. So let's say utilizes. Great verb there, it's more advanced than use. Thirdly, the cultivation of tobacco utilizes land, and then I'm going to use another relative clause, which could otherwise be, and then I don't want to say used, so which could be otherwise used, let's say dedicated to growing plants to eat. There is a word for that, crops. Plants that you eat, such as potatoes, are known as crops. This is especially bad because tobacco is grown in poor countries where people cannot have money to buy food. You would say do not have money to buy food. Let's see if we can make this more advanced. Due to the fact tobacco is often, let's say, produced. And then instead of poor countries, let's say developing countries. So due to the fact tobacco is often produced in developing countries, now we need a main clause. This is especially, and then I want to say unfair, but there's a better word, which is unjust. And then we'll use another subordinate clause, as people are often, and then we can use the word poor, too poor, and instead of to buy food, I'm going to use the word I use in many of my videos, to purchase food. Finally, these three reasons are only a small amount of the reasons smoking is bad and why we should ban. Ben is a name, that's a typo that the writer has made. Why we should ban it. Isn't it time to ban this disgusting and harmful habit? Do you know what? That's really good. The only thing is with repeated reasons and reasons. I really like this question at the end. Isn't it time to ban this disgusting and harmful habit? But we've used ban twice, so great effort. Let's see if we can improve it even further. Finally, I'm going to say these arguments, and then instead of saying are only, I'm going to say merely. Fantastic adverb to mean only. Are merely three of the many. So these arguments are merely three of the many against smoking. And why it is bad and we should ban it. and why I feel it must be, and let's use this verb, prohibited, which means to be banned. So isn't it time to ban this disgusting and harmful habit? We can add a bit more to that. Given all we know about this exceedingly, fantastic adverb, it means extremely. Given all that we know about this exceedingly harmful drug, and then we'll use a typo there for harmful, and then we'll use this question. Isn't it time we banned it? And then I'm going to use an expression at the end which I really like, once and for all. Now it's time to do one final edit of this essay, and this essay is going to come in a PDF ebook along with all of my other advanced essays, so check the descriptions of my videos because that will be coming soon. Let's begin. Smoking, the case for prohibition. In every nation, it is now a universally accepted truth that smoking is an addictive habit which ruins lives. And yet, people still puff away, fully aware of the risks. In this essay, I outlined 3 arguments against smoking and why I believe it should be outlawed. Fantastic opening paragraph, we can leave that as it is. Firstly, smokers risk a plethora of cancers. In particular, smoking is a major cause of lung cancer, which if not discovered early, is fatal. In many instances, had the patient not smoked, they would never have developed this devastating disease. Secondly, a further pernicious outcome of this unhealthy practice is the phenomenon of passive smoking, whereby people who do not smoke develop health issues because they have inhaled second-hand smoke. I have a good improvement here. People who do not smoke, non-smokers. More simple, more direct, more straight to the point. Whereby non-smokers develop health issues because they have inhaled second-hand smoke. This is especially damaging when those affected are innocent children whose bodies are still growing. Thirdly, the cultivation of tobacco utilizes land which could otherwise be dedicated to growing crops. Due to the fact tobacco is often produced in developing countries, this is especially unjust, as people are often too poor to purchase food. I'm going to add in and are at risk of starvation. I think that explains this point a little more clearly. Finally, these arguments are merely 3 of the many against smoking and why I feel it must be prohibited. Given all we know about this exceedingly harmful drug, isn't it time we banned it once and for all? I am really happy with this final essay. I think I can tweak it a little more and we'll do that before I put it in the PDF ebook. But thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you found it useful, and if you did, please give it a like, and I love to hear your comments. I get comments from people all over the world and it really does make this whole process worthwhile. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.